Just imagine, you are the first human to ever exist. The whole earth is yours. Every plant is yours to eat. Every animal is yours to name. Life is perfect. You get to run around with the person that you love doing literally whatever you want. But one small mistake completely ruins it all for you, essentially. How would you feel? Well, someone actually did live that life, and it's all recorded for us to read about in the Bible. So, what would that life really look like? Well, in today's video, we're gonna find out. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another video on my channel where I am in a constant search for the truth. And the truth is, Adam and Eve were created perfect. As the Bible says, God saw that his creation was very good. But as we know, this perfection and this goodness did not last very long. But today we're not just going to go over the fall. A lot of people focus on that because it's very important, obviously, but what about before that? What about after? What about the whole life of the first humans to ever exist? It usually gets skipped over. But in today's video, we're going to go over the whole thing. What was life like on a perfect Earth? And what was life like after the Earth wasn't so perfect anymore? In today's video, that's exactly what we're going to do. But before we do, if you guys find yourself enjoying today's video at any point, please tell me so by giving me a subscribe and commenting down below, telling me what your favorite part was. And if you want to see any more videos like this, I have plenty more of them on my channel, so make sure that you subscribe so you can see any future uploads. Thank you. All right, with that out of the way, we're going to start with the creation of Adam in Genesis chapter 2, verse 7. Now, both Adam and Eve are mentioned in Genesis chapter 1, but very briefly, and this actually explains how they were created. So we're going to start here. Then the Lord God formed the man of dust from the ground and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and the man became a living creature. That's it. Adam was created that simply. Now, besides being the first person on Earth, literally, which is already pretty freaking cool, the double cool thing is he was the only person on Earth, so he could literally do whatever he wanted. But Adam wasn't happy. I mean, you think he would be. He literally has the entire world to do whatever he wants, but he doesn't have anything to do. So, God, wanting to fix this problem, gives him something to do. He says, go tend to the garden. You can grow all the plants you want. You can eat all the fruit you want. Just go tend a garden and have fun. But there's one fruit, one plant that you cannot eat. You cannot eat the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, because if you do, you'll die. But that's okay, because Adam's not going to eat from that tree. He literally has every other tree and every other fruit to eat from, so he doesn't have to worry about that one. So picture this. Adam is just hanging out, tending to his garden, eating all the fruits he wants, and just basically living out my Tuesday afternoon dream. But he's still not happy. Again, why not? He's now got something to do. He can tend to his garden and do anything else. He's eating fruit all day, swimming in rivers, and petting tigers. I don't know what he's doing, but obviously he's doing something. He's literally got the whole world to himself. But that's the problem. Adam has the whole world to himself. He's lonely. So God, wanting to fix this problem, he presents Adam with every living creature, and he allows Adam to name them all whatever he wants. And after he does that, he gets to pick out his favorite one, and that can be his companion forever. But to Adam, that's not good enough. He picks out through all the animals and names them all, and he decides that none of them are good enough to be his helper. So, again, God doing God things wants to help out in any way he can, but once and for all. So, God essentially puts Adam into a medically induced coma. He does supernatural surgery on him to remove one of his ribs and stitches him back up, and out of his ribs, he creates the perfect helper for Adam, and her name is Eve. Now, life is good. Adam has his perfect helper. She can help him tend to the garden. They can eat all the fruit they want, swim in rivers together, and pet tigers together, or whatever they were doing. Life is good now. Except one thing is not good. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil. But Adam didn't eat from it because he had no inclination to. It was just him and God. God said, don't eat from it. Here's everything else that you can eat, and Adam was fine with that. But at some point, Lucifer was up in heaven losing a battle. and he was cast down to earth by the hand of the archangel Michael. Now, if you want to learn more about this, I have a full video about that. That's my previous video, by the way, and I'll have it linked up here if you want to check that out. But anyway, at some point, Lucifer is now on earth. So he starts doing devil things, Satan things, and he finds and attacks the weakest one. He attacks Eve, because Eve is the easier target here. She's been around a lot less long than Adam, meaning she has a lot less experience than Adam, and she doesn't know as much. She's a lot more susceptible to being deceived, and Satan knows this, so that's exactly what he does. He said to the woman, "Did God actually say, 'You shall not eat of any tree in the garden'?" Now, pause real quick. This might seem like a very simple question, but I hate to say it, this is a very smart move by Satan. He already knows the answer to this question. He's misquoting God on purpose to see if Eve is going to correct him, essentially sussing her out to see how much she really knows. And Eve's answer will give Satan everything he needs to know. Because keep in mind, Eve is a lot less mature than Adam. Literally, she's been around a lot less long, meaning she's had a lot less experience, and Satan knows this. So he asks her this question, purposefully misquoting God, to see how easy she is to deceive based on the knowledge that she already has. And the woman said to the serpent, "We may eat of the fruit of the trees in the garden, but God said, 'You shall not eat of the fruit of the tree that is in the midst of the garden, neither shall you touch it, lest you die.'" And that, based on what she just said right there, sadly, told Satan everything that he needed to know, because she also just misquoted God. Alright guys, it's about 15 minutes later because my camera overheated, so we're in a new spot now, but anyway, back to my point. God never said that they couldn't touch it. He just said that they couldn't eat it. Now, I know this seems like such a minute detail, but this slight mistake shows Satan that Eve doesn't know everything or exactly what she's following, essentially. So Satan corrects her, but of course he corrects her with a lie. But the serpent said to the woman, "You will not surely die, for God knows that when you eat of it, your eyes will be opened, and you will be like God, knowing good and evil." So Eve, being deceived by Satan and desiring to be wise, eats of the fruit. And she also gives some to Adam, and he also eats it. Now, we'll talk about this later in the video, but obviously Adam was very dumb for following Eve and eating with her, but again, we'll get to that later. After they both ate the fruit, they realized that they were naked, so they sewed together some fig leaves to make loincloths so they could cover up. Then they heard the footsteps of God walking in the garden, so they went and hid themselves. And God seems like he was not very happy. He marched right up to Adam and said, "Where are you? Why are you hiding?" And Adam said that he heard God walking close, so he went and hid himself because he was naked. And God was flabbergasted. "Who told you that you were naked? Did you eat of the fruit that I told you not to?" And Adam said, "It was the woman. She gave me the fruit to eat." So God turned to Eve and said, "Eve, what have you done?" And Eve said, "It was the serpent. He deceived me into eating the fruit." So God turned to the serpent and he said, "Because you have done this, cursed are you above all livestock and above all beasts of the field. On your belly you shall go, and dust you shall eat all the days of your life. I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and her offspring. He shall bruise your head, and you shall bruise his heel." Now God cursed Satan, but Adam and Eve are not off the hook yet. He told Eve that her childbearing would now be very painful, aka labor would hurt really, really bad. And he also told her that even though her desires would be contrary to her husband's, Adam's, that he would rule over her and be her leader, not the other way around. And as for Adam, tending to the garden, which was Adam's fun, his entertainment, his pastime, is not going to be so fun anymore. He's going to have to work and sweat to grow the fruit out of the ground that he can eat and eat bread for the rest of his life until he dies and returns right back to the dust that he was created from. Now, after God had calmed down a little bit, after essentially reprimanding everyone, just like a dad takes you out for ice cream after you get in trouble, God decided to make Adam and Eve some actual clothes instead of just fig leaves, and he sent them out in the garden to work. Alright, so let's take a little recap real quick. Adam and Eve had the perfect life. Now life is not so perfect. Okay, recap over. Let's continue. Eventually, Adam and Eve found a new home and decided that right now would be the perfect time to have children. So they did. First gave birth to Cain, and secondly, Abel. Now, Cain worked the land, just like his dad, and Abel kept sheep. And one day, Cain took fruit that he worked tirelessly for to get out of the ground, and he offered it as an offering to the Lord. And then Abel offers the firstborn of the sheep, also to the Lord. But the Lord regarded Abel's offering and disregarded Cain's offering, seemingly. So Cain got really angry that God was seemingly picking favorites between him and his brother. So when God saw that Cain was angry, the Lord said to Cain, "Why are you angry, and why has your face fallen? If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin is crouching at the door. Its desire is contrary to you, but you must rule over it." But Cain did not listen. Sin was crouching at his door, but he did not rule over it. So in his anger, he took Abel out into the middle of the field to talk, and he killed him. And God, seeing this, didn't want any more killing to happen, so God put a mark on Cain so that no one would kill him. And if they did, they would be punished sevenfold. And Cain ran away to be a fugitive and a wanderer of the earth forever. And this left Adam and Eve alone once again. So Adam and Eve had another son, and they named him Seth, essentially as a replacement for Abel. And Seth was born when Adam was 130 years old, and there was 800 years after Adam fathered Seth, making Adam 930 years old when he died. And sadly, we don't really get any mention of Eve's exact age or her time of death, but we can pretty safely assume that she died relatively close to Adam's death. And that's it. That was the entire life, as we know it, of Adam and Eve. Now, there is a couple of very important lessons that we can learn from Adam and Eve's lives. Starting with number one, you should be very clear about your knowledge. One of the biggest reasons that Eve got deceived in the first place is because of her blurry knowledge. She knew that God said not to eat the fruit, but she got some of her facts wrong, meaning that she wasn't knowledgeable enough or clear enough on her knowledge, educated enough to know that Satan was just telling her straight up lies. What I'm saying is, if you are very clear in your knowledge, especially when it comes to very important things like your faith in God, for example, the more you know about, the facts of what you're talking about, the safer you are from gullibility and believing, lies and being tricked, essentially, just like Eve. You should do your research and really know what you're talking about so that you're safer from false information. Now, I'm not saying to just completely disregard information that's contrary to the information that you already know. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is, do your research when you do find new information that's contrary. You should actually look at the evidence and be like, is this actually credible, good, reliable information, or is this just factoids? Bottom line for this first point, be clear in what you know and research carefully what you don't know. This will protect you from false information and from being deceived, just like Eve. And secondly, and just as importantly, you need to be strong, because women are very powerful. Now, what do I mean by this? Have you ever heard the term love drunk? This term has a bunch of different meanings, but I'm going to focus on just this one for now. Here, put yourself in this situation for a second. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, you are literally drunk. Are you very well oriented or not? Probably not. You're probably very disoriented. Are you going to make good decisions or going to make stupid decisions? Probably going to make stupid decisions. So, being love drunk sometimes means that you make decisions that you otherwise would not have made if you were sober. You know what I mean? And in Adam's case, it was eating the apple, or the pomegranate, or the fig, or whatever. I don't know what fruit it was, but the fruit, okay? Women especially, men also, but women especially, are very persuasive. In the Bible, it seems like Eve was just like, eat it, and Adam was like, okay. But in real life, it probably was not like this. Eve was so blind to her own sin that she was probably very heavily trying to convince Adam to sin with her. And Adam's feelings were probably fighting his mind, like, I want to do this. I want to be part of the group with my wife. I want to do what she's doing. But at the same time, I know that I'm not supposed to be doing it. It was probably much more of a fight than it seems like in the Bible. But ultimately, Adam did suspend his critical thinking for just long enough to make the worst decision of his entire life. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say that this was all Eve's fault. I'm actually saying quite the opposite. Adam totally could have done something. He could have walked right up to Satan, said, "No thanks," grabbed his wife by the hand and walked away. But he didn't do that. He stood by and just let it happen, essentially. And then once she did it, he also did it with her. You know? My main point in saying this whole example is, if you love someone enough, sometimes you could be, more willing to do things that you wouldn't normally do. Slightly compromising your morals just to make them happy. And this is why it's important to follow point number 1 and be careful and knowledgeable about your morals. That way you're not so easily deceived. And also, very importantly, just pick the right person for you. Someone that's not going to try to compromise the morals that you already know that you believe in. Now, I'm not saying that Eve was not the perfect person for Adam. Of course she was. All I'm saying is that your focus should always, firstly and most importantly, be on God, okay? And for a split second, God was less important than Eve to Adam. Just a second. He suspended his critical thinking, what he knew to be right, what God told him is right, and he focused on Eve more so. And that focus, for that split second, caused the worst decision in humankind, the fall of man. And with that is the entire life of Adam and Eve and the lessons from their life as best as I can give them to you guys. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a subscribe down below and as well as a comment down below telling me what your favorite part of today's video was, or if you have any more questions or opinions that you want to tell me about this video or about anything in general, please leave those in the comments down below as well, and I'll try to answer them or address them in a following video. But with that, that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.